you a fellow car guy? I have a 2008 Ford Mustang GT convertible, and nothing makes me happier in that car than when it's nice and clean. And you know who helps me get there? RevAutoCarCare.com. They help me get that pony looking as nice and shiny and ready for any of the car meetups that are all around the great city of El Paso. Spoil your car and go to RevAutoCarCare.com/Tipton and view all the inventory they have and find out what works for you to help make your ride shine. RevAutoCarCare.com/Tipton. Use promo code Tipton33 at checkout to save 15%. Welcome into the Tipping Point with Mike Tipton. Thank you so much for being a part of today's show. We are live adjacent, as we are currently live on YouTube, X, on Facebook, and of course on Roku via the National Streaming Sports app. Check out all they have to offer over at National Streaming Sports. I got to be a part of a couple of the shows over the last couple of weeks, and it's been fantastic being a part of those things. The Prim and Proper Friday with the fellows was a fun time, and of course being a part of the Professional Sports Show every Wednesday, or at least the last couple of Wednesdays. I can't say every Wednesday, but the last couple of Wednesdays, as Mac and the crew have embraced me and welcomed me and my craziness into their world and all the stuff that they've got going on with National Streaming Sports. So, of course, check out all they have, the Roku channel, the Fast channel that they have. It's awesome to see what they've got working with them over there as well. Now, if you've been paying attention to the show, you know that currently, right now, I'm in two places at one time. I have found the way to bend time and space, as I am currently at the VA. I'll say hi to future me. Hi, everybody, and all of you who are in the future with me, but also in the past at the same time. Look at that warping the world and the concept of time, since time is nothing more than a man-made concept. Look at that, just going big galaxy brain on everybody over here. So, yes, I'm at the VA right now getting checked out as an old guy because old guys got to do old guy things. So right now, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the things that I guess happened over the last week, right? Like some of the things I haven't really been able to get to because conversations will take me wherever it is that conversations take me to. 99% of the time, you as the audience, you as the people that support this show, in the comment section, you kind of tell me where it is that you want to go. We either stay there or we don't, right? But today, unfortunately, you're stuck with your boy. And what we're going to talk about now is the coaching carousel that's going around in the NBA or in the NFL. As we know right now, there are a lot of vacancies, 6 vacancies right now, right? Should be 7, but 6 vacancies right now. The 7th one being the Patriots with Mike Vrabel. They already made that hire, so Mike Vrabel doesn't have to worry about being unemployed anymore. The Dallas Cowboys, the Chicago Bears, the New Orleans Saints, the New York Jets, like there's going to be a ton of teams here looking for a new head coach. And yesterday, something that happened on the Professional Sports Show kind of got me thinking about this topic in particular, which is retread coaches. Right? You look out there right now and you see some coaches that have a bit of a name with them, whether it's Mike McCarthy, whether it's somebody else, they've got some sort of name and reputation with them that allows them to have a little something that some of the other coaches out there might not have. And that to me raises a lot of questions, right? Because now you're talking about coaches who have a pedigree, so to speak, that might get a job over one of the new and upcoming people. And, of course, to me, there's nothing wrong with hiring a coach that has a bit of a background. But if you've watched Mike McCarthy over the last, decade and a half now, you've come to realize that it's not necessarily him that's the reason for success wherever it is that he's gone, right? Like that one Super Bowl that he wins with Aaron Rodgers, an MVP type season, the great Packers defense led by Clay Matthews at that point in time, right? Like we're talking about a transcendent type team. Yes, it's only one, but one is really all you need. But I say this all the time whenever I talk about UTEP sports and I talk about a bunch of other sports. That one is the outlier. Sure, he's given you, as we alluded to on yesterday's/today's show, that Micah Parsons and a lot of the players out there love Mike McCarthy as a head coach. And there's nothing wrong with that. If they love the guy, they love the guy. Who are we to judge? But I would say over that decade and a half, we've seen what Mike McCarthy is, right? He's a great offensive guy. He really is. I know Tommy Carranza, if you're watching right now, you would say, Mike, you're a crazy SOB. But we've seen the Dallas Cowboys offense thrive over the last couple of years with Mike McCarthy as the play caller. Mike McCarthy being the guy that instills the type of offense with the Dallas Cowboys. We saw that with the Packers, right? Like they always had a top high-performing offense. Now, you can say whether that was Aaron Rodgers, you can say whether that's Dak Prescott and the weapons that he has in Dallas Cowboys. The fact of the matter is that the coaching staff putting in that type of system is what allows the players to flourish, right? But Mike McCarthy isn't the rah, let's get you going type of guy, right? He's also an older gentleman, and given his recent runs, that he's more than likely not going to get a deep run into the playoffs, right? And I feel like we're getting that with a couple of other head coaches that are out there, like the Mike Tomlins of the world, right? Like you had a lot of success early on in your career, but it's basically been wallowing in the middle for the last bit of your career, right? In Mike Tomlin's case, 8 years since he last won a Super Bowl. In Mike McCarthy's case, though, it's interesting, right? Because you have a guy who, and I went full Chris Collinsworth there. Here's a guy. You have a guy in Mike McCarthy that just had one of the more disappointing seasons in recent Dallas Cowboys memory, and that's saying something, right? And the whole concept, and I love whenever I play devil's advocate with this stuff because it's not necessarily that I believe a lot of what I'm saying. It's that I want other people to think about the opposite end of things, right? The other day we were told, he's a terrible coach. There's all these issues, pre-snap issues, blah, 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 whatever it may be. And I agree with that to an extent. I believe that Mike McCarthy, once again, a great offensive play caller. But there was never any repercussions for the Dallas Cowboys leading the league in penalties year after year after year. And whenever they didn't lead the league in penalties, they were still one of the top 5 most penalized teams in the NFL. That's coaching, right? Like you're coaching these guys up. They've got to know that there's got to be more than just, oh, we get a flag thrown, you get yelled at on the sideline for a couple of seconds, and then you go on your merry little way. There's got to be more. That's why me being a head coach would be a nightmare for the Players Association, because I would go along the lines of, you get a false start penalty like that, it's a $5,000 fine. If you get a false start penalty while we're in like the red zone, that's a $10,000 fine. And if you get any type of penalty, a hold, whatever it may be, that causes us to lose out on a touchdown, that's a $20,000 fine. That would be things that I instill as the team, because now what it is these players are going to start playing the game the way that they should play the game. No more of these pre-snap penalties, things like that. But again, I'm a jerk, right? Like I own completely who I am as a human being. And Mike McCarthy seemed to be the guy that never held the team accountable. And I know that there's a lot of stuff that's out there about how wonderful Mike McCarthy was as a head coach, how much people loved playing under Mike McCarthy, how he's a player coaches kind of guy, and all of those little things that kind of go around where it makes you feel good about who you are as a head coach, who you are as a person, all of those things. He wasn't able to coach the Dallas Cowboys team the way that the Dallas Cowboys team needed to be coached, at least not in my opinion. And I know not in the opinion of a lot of fans that are out there that are Dallas Cowboys fans. So why would you, if you're the Chicago Bears or the New Orleans Saints, take a flyer on Mike McCarthy? And the answer to that comes down to, you need a coach that's got proven experience, right? So my mindset with this is, if you've got a team full of young guys, then Mike McCarthy's your kind of guy, right? Like he can be the guy that introduces them to the NFL. But the expectation should never be he's going to win us a Super Bowl, right? So if Mike McCarthy becomes a head coach in Chicago, as he's had his interviews and all those things like that, if he becomes a head coach of the Chicago Bears, the expectation in Chicago shouldn't be, well, they're automatically going to leapfrog Minnesota and they're automatically going to leapfrog Detroit. Now, if you have a team of older guys, why not bring in that new young head coach, the Ben Johnsons, right? The Aaron Glenns, guys that have cut their teeth, that have done what they've needed to do to try to get this team of veterans where they need to be. Introduce something a little different, right? Augustine had mentioned on the show a couple of days ago, you need a coach that's proven and this and that and blah, 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 blah. Well, how do you become a proven coach if it's not through actually coaching and growing? Again, I've probably beat this into the ground, but it's the Bill Belichick way, right? Like, terrible with Cleveland, leaves the Jets after one day. That right there would have been the biggest red flag to me in hiring somebody like that, right? Like, you couldn't last a day, but then becomes one of the greatest coaches of all time because of a mixture of things, right? We've had this discussion before, Medusa Designs, a bunch of other people out there being like, who is responsible for success? If you didn't pay attention to that show or you weren't a part of the audience or the people that support the show at that point in time, my whole concept is it's a group effort, guys, right? Like there shouldn't be that one person that gets the credit for everything, because if it's going to go that route, the person that should get the credit for the team is always going to be the GM, whoever built the team, right? Whoever decided, I'm going to bring this coach in and he's going to be my guy. I'm going to have this quarterback and that's going to be my guy. If we're going to parse down to who is responsible for whose success, it's going to be, at least in my opinion, the general manager of the team. Plain and simple. So the taking credit, the ending credit, whatever it is that you want to do, that game needs to come to an end based off of those types of factors, right? Now looking forward at a lot of the other stuff that's out there as far as your head coaching goes, you can't have a proven coach without giving a coach a chance, right? Look at what happened with Dan Campbell. His first time coaching down in Miami was an absolute disaster, an abject disaster. They're going around calling this man an oaf and Man Campbell because he's such a weird individual, right? He goes into Detroit and changes the culture there. Dan Campbell was exactly what Detroit needed at that point in time. I don't think a Mike McCarthy would have gotten the most out of him. I don't think, you know, if Ben Johnson had been the head coach, that he would have gotten the most out of him, because you needed a guy like Dan Campbell to basically come in, give double birds to the past and say, look, we're creating our own legacy here. And he's going to be the bullet shield, the Operation Human Shield for his players to shelter them away from all the negativity that's going to be out there in regards to them, right? That's what made Dan Campbell and makes Dan Campbell such a special head coach, is his ability to do that. What I'm basically cutting this down to is you have to get a coach that matches your situation, right? In Denver, they got a coach in Sean Payton that they felt would match their situation. That coach gets in there and says, this quarterback we've got isn't the guy that I want. Let's go ahead and move on from him. They move on from him. They're going to have money in the salary cap that was tied up this season that's going to be loosened up next year, and some more money that's going to be loosened up the year after that. The dead cap weight is going to go away for the Denver Broncos, right? Sean Payton, able to connect to a team that just seemed like they were on a rebuild, right? He seems to be the guy for them. And I know it sounds as dumb as it possibly can whenever you have someone saying, oh, well, you need to make sure you hire the right guy. Well, no crap, right? Like, obviously, you want to hire the right guy. But it has to be someone that matches what your team wants, right? Like, what your team identity is going to be. Are we going to change our identity and go this way? Then we need to get the pieces to make sure we go this way. And whenever I look at the teams that are out there that need a head coach, I see a lot of teams that have some talent on them. Like, look at the Jets, right? Like look at them. You've got some pieces there that you can work with. The big question is going to be your quarterback. And of course, there's been the murmurs out there of maybe they sign Sam Darnold back as the quarterback whenever they get a new head coach, because the Vikings offensive coordinator is in the running for that job. McCown is in the running for that job. So maybe he becomes the guy, right? And now Sam Darnold goes back and it becomes a hero's welcome in New York. But look at what surrounds that job. And it's almost like the Spider-Man meme, right? It's like looking in a mirror, the New York Jets and the Dallas Cowboys. they're basically the same team. You have a meddlesome owner, you got some talent around you, but you made some bad decisions as far as the GM and all that goes. Now, obviously, the GM in New York has been fired thanks to Aaron Rodgers. The head coach in New York was fired thanks to Aaron Rodgers. Is Aaron Rodgers going to come back? More than likely not. He seems like he wasn't very happy with the Jets. So now you got to sit back and think about, okay, if I'm a young head coach, is this the situation that I want to be in? Chances are all of them are going to say yes, right? Because this is your opportunity to say, I'm doing something that I didn't think I was ever going to be able to do. I got to take my chance. I got to reach for my chance and actually get this job. But the question comes down to, again, what is the expectation? If I'm a Jets fan and I get McCown as my new coach and I get Sam Darnold as my new quarterback, my new but old quarterback, and he comes back in, what is the rest of the division like? Because you've already known what it's like if you're a Jets fan to have your heart ripped out by a quarterback that didn't deserve to be there in Aaron Rodgers, right? So what should the weight of expectation be? Where are you in the hierarchy of 1, your division, 2, your conference, and 3, the pecking order of teams, right? And if you're the Jets, best case scenario, you're the 3rd best team in the AFC East. Miami would need a massive drop-off. New England would need to stay the same, right? Buffalo would need a massive drop-off for the Jets to win that division. I get this a lot because I'm a weird type of fan, right? And I've got no problem saying that. I'm very realistic with things. I'm sure those of you that are new to the show on the Roku channels and all this, you have gotten to see that I am a very realistic type of person when it comes to my support of my teams. As a matter of fact, yesterday on the professional sports show, Sonia even told me, wow, that's crazy, a realistic Dallas Cowboys fan, right? But it goes more along the lines of you have to know as a fan where your team is. If I'm a Carolina Panthers fan, I'm not looking at this draft saying, oh my God, next year they're going to be a contender. If I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan, I'm not looking at this team saying, oh, next year they're going to be a contender. So on and so on and so forth, right? Obviously, fandom is short for fanatic, so of course we're going to get our hopes up and get them dashed at the end of the day if our team doesn't win a championship. But there are teams out there where it's not championship or bust. For me, there's 6 teams maybe that you can say they have a championship window at this moment, right? It's Kansas City, it's Detroit, it's Buffalo, it's Baltimore, it's Philadelphia, and in my opinion, it was the San Francisco 49ers. The other teams, do we really have expectations for them? Do we have expectations for Houston? Do we have expectations for the Rams? Do we have them for the Commies? Of course we don't, right? Like, it's only these teams that have the window either opening or shutting on them. The window's shutting on specific teams, right? San Francisco, that window, I said it earlier this year, I think it's done. It's already closed. They got to pay money because they were able to live off of not having to pay a bunch of money. But whenever you look at what those teams have in common, it's a head coach that fits what they are. Even, yes, Philadelphia's Nick Sirianni fits what that team needs, right? I was reading an article and it made me laugh a little bit because I was like, is he doing this on purpose or is it a joke? But the article is basically how Nick Sirianni treats himself as a meat shield for his players. He'll take all the criticism because he's a goofy guy on the sideline. He's mouth breathing. He's doing all the stuff it is that Nick Sirianni does. And he's kind of goofy, right? So, of course, he's going to be the target. And he's more than willing to be the target. And that fits the team. But you also see the issue with him is that it almost seems like the team doesn't respect him. And that's obvious by the way that A.J. Brown and certain other players on the team just don't seem to really pay attention to the messaging that Nick Sirianni is doing. But all these coaches of these top teams, formerly San Francisco, but Detroit, Philadelphia, Kansas City, Baltimore, Buffalo, the players love those coaches. There is no issues with these coaches. Those coaches can have a little bit of a setback, and the players and the fan base and everyone is going to be fine with it, right? Like if Kansas City doesn't win a championship this year, the fan base isn't going to turn on Andy Reid and be like, "Oh, you're done. We don't want you here anymore. We've finished with you, Andy Reid. You go retire and go do your thing." The fan base isn't going to do that. Well, like it's just not a thing that's going to happen. The only team there where that could possibly happen is Philadelphia with Sirianni. But again, the only coach in Philadelphia Eagles history that has taken them to multiple playoffs, 4 straight playoffs in his first 4 seasons. Nick Sirianni, the only guy to do that in Eagles history. That's a lot of history, and he's the only guy to do that in their history. Says a lot about who he is as a head coach, at least in my opinion, right? But McDermott's not going to get kicked out of the league if he loses in the playoffs. Harbaugh's not going to get kicked out of the league if he loses in the playoffs, and Dan Campbell's not going to, right? You have teams that have matched their coach's personality that fits perfectly in with what the team is. Maybe Philadelphia could be the outlier here, but I'm thinking they actually really did take on Sirianni's mindset. Look at how crazy A.J. Brown has been over the last couple of weeks, lying to us that he's reading a book on the sidelines. Come on, guy. The coaching hire, to me, is almost as important as your quarterback signing. And whenever you look at teams that are out there that need a head coach, some of them need a quarterback. New York, New Orleans, do you trust Spencer Rattler? Are you going to continue with Derek Carr? What are you going to do out there, right? The Raiders, what are you going to do out there as far as quarterbacks go? Are you really going to stick with Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell? Of course not, right? Those are the questions that are going to be asked. Now, you look at one situation with Dallas, and you say, good quarterback, good receiving core, somewhat okay running back game that we've got going on here. No salary cap, crazy owner, GM/president. Is that a desirable position? And, of course, you heard me say it. The Dallas Cowboys are a desirable position because of the helmet, the star on the side of the helmet. That means something to a large fan base, right? But if you're a coach, is that where you want to go? And Dallas Cowboys fans, don't get your hopes up with what I'm going to say right here, but they're not going to get a guy that's going to be the anti-Jason Garrett or the anti-Mike McCarthy. They're going to get another guy out there that's going to be desperate enough to have a head coaching job that he's going to let Jerry Jones walk all over him, because that's just the way that it's going to work, right? Unless it's a huge name like a Deion Sanders, in which case I'm for it. I know a lot of people out there are laughing at it. I am for it. I want to see Deion Sanders as the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. I think that would be a fun time. But I don't think that you're going to get, out of all the coaches that are available, a coach like a Mike Tomlin, just because Mike Tomlin wouldn't want to cede the power to Jerry Jones, and that's what Jerry Jones wants, is all the power. He's 82 years old. He is what he already is. He's not going to change who he is as a person to placate to people he doesn't care about. As long as you keep showing up to the games, he's going to keep doing what he does, because that's what Jerry Jones does. Out of all of those teams, Chicago Bears included, Jacksonville, Chicago, Las Vegas, New Orleans, the Jets, and the Cowboys. Out of all of those teams, the Bears have to be the most desirable position right now. They're going to have a lot of salary cap that they can start spending. They're going to have a young quarterback who's on a rookie contract, so you don't have to worry about paying him at this exact moment, and he hasn't done enough to demand a holdout or anything of that nature. A decent enough running game, right? Like, they've got some pieces there. Some good young receivers as well, with DJ Moore as the veteran guy that's there. Cole Kmet being a guy, right? Like, he's a pretty solid, good tight end. A questionable defense, but you got enough salary cap that you can add to that. You can add to your offensive line. That would be, to me, and of course, you're in a division that no one's going to have expectations for. The Packers are better. The Bears or the Vikings are better, and the Lions are better than the Bears are right now. That, to me, would be the most desirable position in the NFL. After that, maybe Jacksonville, because you have an easily winnable division. But I wouldn't want to go to Vegas. No matter what, you're going to be the third or fourth best team there. You got Kansas City, a perennial Super Bowl contender. I wouldn't want to go to Dallas because they've got no salary cap, crazy owner, all the things I laid out to you previously. I wouldn't want to go to New Orleans because their salary cap situation is somehow worse than that of the Dallas Cowboys. And of course, the Jets, enough said. Chicago seems to be, and I would have never thought this, but Chicago seems to be the most desirable position right now as far as NFL head coaches go. Get at me on my social media at Mr. Tipton 33. You can follow me on X, on Instagram, on YouTube, everywhere like that. All it is at Mr. Tipton 33. Of course, visit our friends over at myhappynuts.com. That's www.myhappynuts.com/Mike Tipton, or use promo code Mike Tipton, one word, and save anywhere from 15 to 30% on all the different packages that are available for your male grooming needs. www.myhappynuts.com. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. Whenever we come back from this break, we are going to talk to Evelyn Sicairos. She is from Apple Musica Uno, and we're going to talk a little bit about what Apple Musica Uno has going on right now, a brand new part of Apple Music that was launched. So I can't wait to see what Evelyn has to say to us about that. All that and more whenever we return on the Tipping Point with Mike Tipton on Facebook, on X, on YouTube, and of course on Roku via the National Streaming Sports app. It's out there, but don't be fooled. Some sites are legal in some states only. Some sites pay in Bitcoin, and some sites have even been hacked. However, BetUS has been in business for over 30 years. They have future bets that are paying out in the thousands, and there's still time for you to bet on the Super Bowl, the National Championship, and even the NBA Championship. Just use the QR code right here, and it will take you to the BetUS site. BetUS. Check it out and bet responsibly. Welcome back to the Tipping Point with Mike Tipton. We are live on Roku via National Streaming Sports and, of course, on all the various social media channels. Right now, though, I am joined by Evelyn Sicairos. She is from Apple Musica Uno. Evelyn, thank you so much for joining me here on here. I love me some Latino music, so please let me know what Apple Musica Uno is.
I know you love sports, but I'm so glad you said you love Música Latina. And I think you're really going to love Apple Musica Uno, which is a deeply authentic street-level celebration of Latin music in all its diversity, its vibrance. It's free, it's ad-free, and streaming 24/7 around the world in over 160 countries. Latin music is transcending borders, capturing moments, moving culture, and just people around the world. And these are not just songs that, are part of the algorithm. These are songs that are handpicked by Apple's music team of experts and also by the artists that have shows on the radio station. We have Becky G, Rauw Alejandro, Grupo Frontera, and many more.
I was thinking with that, whenever I saw that lineup that you guys had, like Becky G and like Grupo Frontera and all that, I was like, I guarantee they're going to have some Chenta on there as well. Like, it's going to be a wide range of music, right?
Yes, it's very, very it's very diverse, let me tell you. So we're basically playing what's new, what's current, what's moving culture, from música mexicana, which is my passion, reggaeton to tropical, Latin pop, and salsa, merengue, cumbias. We're also going to continue to bring new artists that Apple Music is getting behind early on, just like they did with, just Bad Bunny back in 2017 when he was starting. They were like, you know what? I see something in him, and look where he's at now. They also foresaw the shift in Música Mexicana in 2019 with Natanael Cano. So the team is always chasing the next big thing, whether it's an artist, songwriter, producer. You'll hear it here first. And like you mentioned, with all kinds of music, there's all kinds of playlists, shows. We have a playlist called the Fiesta or Pistear playlist. You'll get cumbias on the early morning on the weekend, so you can, get inspired and start cleaning. So yes, we have a little bit of everything for everyone.
Who are some of those up and coming artists that you want to just spotlight right now? Because that's what I love about Apple Music is I can go and I can listen to some stuff and I'll always be introduced to something new. who are some of those new artists that I should be on the lookout for?
You know what? There's a lot, way too many. I think that the way now music is changing, and it's so global, especially now with platforms like, Apple Music and the radio station Apple Musica Uno. I hear all, like, it's just somebody new, that got popular off social media on TikTok. I think right now I'm excited, especially for Música Mexicana, people like Javi, who's, super young. We have Chinito Pacas. I think now they're in their big boom, but I am so excited to see what else, they're gonna come out with.
So I always think about this whenever I see people that are, DJs that are into music, that are into radio. Did you ever think that there would be a point in time whenever you started that your voice, your vibe, your, just everything about you would be able to be heard in over 100 countries?
I never in my wildest dreams, to be honest. I think I was just excited when I started radio here in LA, and it was, my LA audience, and it would go to some, south of California, down to Central Valley in California. So I was like, whoa, so many people listen to me. And now through Apple Musica Uno, I have relatives listening to me in Mexico, friends in Colombia, in España, in Japón, all over. And it's exciting, and you also think, right, what's next, what's going to happen in the next few years. So I'm excited to be a part of this project.
I appreciate that journey so much. So for me, like, all I wanted to do was AM sports radio in El Paso, Texas. Mm-hmm. And whenever I got to go work at ESPN in Connecticut, like at their headquarters, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening to me. So I understand, I appreciate, and I respect like the hustle that it takes. Like, we both know this music industry is crazy. We know how the radio industry is. And to see someone like you being able to overcome and do something awesome like what you're doing with Apple Musica Uno, it's awesome to see that stuff. What will you be featuring on your show though? Like how can we get more people over to see what Evelyn Sicairos is doing?
Well, I think I've made it this far, and I'm so lucky to be part of this amazing team at Apple Music. And the passion for music, I think that's what keeps me here. Just like for you, it's your passion for sports, and that's what allows you to keep growing and wanting to learn more. You can catch me on La Oficial. It's Música Mexicana, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. And I have a friend who also has a show, Lechero. He has a Dale Play show, and they play all the Latin hits. So yes, you can catch me throughout the week, and I after me, there's music, and before me, there's, Becky G or Raúl Alejandro or Grupo Frontera or Lechero. So throughout the day, you'll catch us on air.
What was your inspiration to get you into, like, not just radio, but like even Latino music? Like, it's such an awesome genre, and I imagine it's super competitive as well. Like, what was your inspiration to get into this industry?
Growing up, I knew I loved music, but I never thought I can like make a career out of it, or I would ever like be doing this with such an incredible like platform like Apple Music. But it was that love for culture, for music. I think music kind of connects you to your roots, and that's what has me here now. Música Mexicana to me is everything. It brings back memories of childhood. It brings back memories of my grandparents who are no longer with us. And I think now that I'm a mom, I want my son to feel that way with music, to always have that connection to me, to his grandparents, to his great grandparents.
Whenever you like look at all the stuff that you're doing and you see all these new artists and all the spotlights and stuff like that, we always have those one songs that take us back. What's that one song whenever it turns on in the car, you're like, I'm rewinding it, I'm playing it all over again, this is my song, this is my jam? What's that one for you?
You know what? It would have to be like a música de banda, which is like very traditional música from Sinaloa. And it would have to be like them old school songs that my grandma would listen to. One of them, it's called Albur de Amor. And I think that one, when I listen to it, I just turn the volume up. And sometimes it makes me want to cry. Other times I just think of all the parties like Christmas, New Year's at my grandmother's house, all the birthday parties. Those songs are very like emotional to me because I have that strong connection to memories. But, if I want to party, I think of, Daddy Yankee, Gasolina. And I'm like, hey, take me back to, those college days when I was just having fun and free spirited. So yes, that's the beauty of music. It's universal and it just takes you to like places in your mind that you're like, wow, that was so many years ago. So many memories.
I'm like the only Puerto Rican friend in like my friend group. And in like back in the Daddy Yankee days, if I had like my Yankee hat over to the side a little bit, they'd be like, oh man, like you're Daddy Yankee now. It's like, nah, guys, like one, that feels super racist. And two, like, let's just kind of dial it back a little bit. Let me vibe. Like, and now I had to grow a beard. I had to change my entire appearance. So that way they don't call me Daddy Yankee anymore. God.
Yes. You know what? And growing up, that's funny because I went to school here in the States. And growing up, my dad would drop us off at school with his cassette player, playing like Spanish music. And I'd be like, oh, drop us off like, a little further from the entrance growing up, because you still, when you're young, I don't think you like appreciate it as much. It's until you're older, you're like, wow, like this is my culture, and so I'm excited to be part of Apple Musica Uno, which, any generation, like grandparents, parents, us, our children can listen to and, feel part of the culture.
Evelyn, one more time, where can people go to learn more about what you are doing with Apple Musica Uno?
They can go on the app of Apple Music, and then they can click on the radio tab. It's free. And right now it's Dale Play Radio with Lechero. Later on, it will say La Oficial with Evelyn Sicairos. And you can also go on apple.co/uno. And I think you're going to love it. I really think you're going to like it.
I mean, I know what I'm going to be listening to for the rest of the day. Like, I am in on it. I think you were in like the little waiting room. I had a little Peso Pluma going on right now. I was like, I'm vibing right now. And I'm like, I'm going to tune into this. It's going to be a fun time. Evelyn, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate everything you're doing. Everyone, check out Apple Music and, of course, Apple Musica Uno. It's going to be fantastic. Evelyn, thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate you. And I hope to see you in person soon. And also write to me and let me know how much you love the station. And tell all your relatives.
Football season is here, and SeatGeek is my go-to for buying tickets. Now, with SeatGeek, every single ticket is backed with their buyer guarantee. We've all had plans change, and when you can't make it to the big game, SeatGeek has you covered. They're the only ticketer that allows you to return your tickets ahead of the event for credit with SeatGeek swaps. So when things come up, I know that my tickets won't go to waste. So what are you waiting for? Download the SeatGeek app to maximize your possibilities and shop live events with confidence.
Are you a fellow car guy? I have a 2008 Ford Mustang GT convertible, and nothing makes me happier in that car than when it's nice and clean. And you know who helps me get there? RevAutoCarCare.com. They help me get that pony looking as nice and shiny and ready for any of the car meetups that are all around the great city of El Paso. Spoil your car and go to RevAutoCarCare.com/Tipton and view all the inventory they have and find out what works for you to help make your ride shine. RevAutoCarCare.com/Tipton. Use promo code Tipton33 at checkout to save 15%. All right, everybody, we are back on the Tipping Point with Mike Tipton. Shout out to my friend Evelyn Sicairos for being a part of today's show. An absolutely fantastic product that they have over there with Apple Musica Uno. I have actually tuned into it a couple of times, and it's a fun time. Of course, part of the reason why I wanted to have that air on today's episode was to kind of talk about what's going on in the city of Los Angeles. Those that don't know, Evelyn is living in the city of Los Angeles. She has been impacted herself directly by the wildfires and everything that have been going on over there. Check out her Instagram page at Evelyn_Sicairos. And they've been putting up a bunch of different donations and places where you can go and donate to the people of California if you so feel inclined to do so. So, shout out to Evelyn for what she's been doing over there to kind of help out her community. And of course, go visit Apple Musica Uno and check out all the amazing artists, all the amazing shows, and all the amazing music that they have over there on Apple Musica Uno. Just download Apple Music and you'll be able to search it up right there, Apple Musica Uno. Okay. Remember, we are brought to you by our friends over at RevAutoCarCare.com. That's RevAutoCarCare.com, promo code Tipton33. That's how you can save anywhere from 15 to 25% on specific products. If you order over $75 worth, you get free shipping. So free shipping for $75 worth of orders and more. Check them out, RevAutoCarCare.com. And of course, our friends over at www.myhappynuts.com/Mike Tipton. Use promo code Mike Tipton at checkout as well and save between 15 to 30% off on all of their packages. myhappynuts.com/Mike Tipton. Use promo code Mike Tipton. I am checking out here on ESPN.com a bit of a weird news thing that I guess I wasn't really expecting to see, because earlier, scratch that, I guess I can still pull back the curtain, whatever it is that we're doing here. Today is Wednesday. I'm recording this as a pre-recorded show. If you're still listening into this, or if you're new to listening into this right now, you're like, why is that guy wearing the same shirt that he wore yesterday? One, weird that you're paying attention to what I'm wearing. Two, I actually am at a doctor's appointment right now. I have bent time and space, and this is a pre-recorded show that we are airing right now on X, on Facebook, on YouTube, and of course on Roku with our friends over at National Streaming Sports. And on Wednesday's show, we spoke a little bit about Deontay Johnson. And the question was, how can you be on 4 teams in 13 months and be released from a team that needs wide receivers in order to succeed in the playoffs twice? And it turns out that the Ravens now are claiming Deontay Johnson simply for the fact, because he cannot be a part of the team, simply for the fact that there's a possibility they can get a compensatory pick for just picking him up off of waivers and bringing him to be a part of the team. He can't join the team until February 10th, so that's going to be after the Super Bowl. But the chance that now they can get a compensatory pick. And for those of you that don't know, a compensatory pick normally happens between the 3rd and 4th round, sometimes 2nd round. So it could be like a late 2nd round pick, a 3rd round pick, a 4th round pick, maybe a 5th round pick. It's always kind of in that middle round right there, just depending on what it is that you want from, or I guess that the NFL deems your team did in order to get those compensatory picks. A lot of the times, those are picks that are given to teams by hiring minorities into coaching positions or general manager positions, office positions, things like that. You get a compensatory pick. You get an additional pick in the NFL draft. And obviously we know that in the NFL, those draft picks are gold. For those that don't know, the New England Patriots pick of Tom Brady was a compensatory pick. It wasn't supposed to be their original pick. It was their compensatory pick. Pablo Torre, former ESPN personality, now with the DraftKings Network. Pablo Torre finds out, a wonderful, wonderful product, a wonderful podcast. If you don't get a chance make sure you make some time. Check out that podcast. Pablo Torre finds out. He did a full expose on how the Patriots came up with this compensatory pick. And the unanimous decision was, we have no clue. No one knows what the Patriots did in order to receive the pick that ultimately gave them Tom Brady. I can't wait to hear about this in like 20 years, whenever all the conspiracy theories come out, kind of the way that they did with the New York Knicks and Patrick Ewing with the frozen envelope, you pick out the frozen envelope, and now the Knicks get Patrick Ewing's in the 1984 draft, right? Like, I can't wait for those conspiracy theories to come out. But I say that to prove to you that a compensatory pick does have value to it. It has a ton of value to it. So if you're looking at that and saying, oh, okay, well, who cares about what the Ravens are going to get for Deontay Johnson? Think about the fall from grace this guy has, where you go from being the number one option in Pittsburgh to being traded in the offseason from Pittsburgh to going to Carolina and being what just must feel like hell, to going now to Baltimore and not really getting any play, going now to Houston after that, getting a little bit of play, but according to multiple sources, sulking on the sideline and basically being a huge baby the entirety of the time that you were in Pittsburgh. Now, I will say that it does seem odd to me. It really does. That you could be able to pick up any player at this stage in the game, and maybe I've got to do some more to look into this rule, but you can pick up any player at this stage of the game and make that player a draft pick for you. They're not going to pay him any money. He's just a part of the team de facto, like he's there, but he's not really a part of the team. And what that's going to do is give Baltimore an additional pick in the NFL draft. I love the idea that you can play the game and manipulate the system the way that they're manipulating the system. So I'm perfectly happy with what it is that they are doing. But my question to all that would be, is it completely necessary? Is it something that you really, really, really have to do? And the answer to that is simply no, right? Like, the Ravens don't need the help getting better. Like, they're already one of the better teams that are out there in the NBA. So to me, it's like, or in the NFL rather. So to me, it's like, what are we doing? Like legitimately, what are we doing? That this is what you're going to do. Again, as you can exploit the system all you need to. But it's just weird seeing that fall from grace, right? That massive fall from grace that Deontay Johnson had from once being a number one overall pick, or not a number one overall pick, but a number one guy in Pittsburgh, to now just being a guy. Simply a guy. That's all you are, is just one of the boys, right? And that says a lot about who he is in the transactions of what sports are. I don't know if I'm breaking news here to people, but sports are nothing but transaction. Even you as a fan, you are in a transactionary relationship with your favorite team. Your favorite team does not care about you. I've equated it like this a million times before in the past, and I'll probably do it again. Don't forget that there was a fan at a Texas Rangers game who went diving for a foul ball and fell to his death. And they kept playing. How many times you go to a football game or a baseball game, see someone get hit with a ball, and they just keep playing the game because, let's face it, the game is more important than who you are as their fan. It's all about transaction. I hope I didn't break that for you. I hope I didn't break your little heart, but you are nothing more than a transaction in this relationship. Now, having said that, imagine being one of the pawns in this great game of transactions that are being played. And that's what the players are for the most part, right? Like, if you're a middle of the road player, that's who you are for the most part. Sorry, I am trying to get something done here, hopefully within the next couple of seconds, so I can get it ready for the end of the show, because I completely spaced on what needed to be done by the end of the show. There's been a lot of recordings for your boy this day. It was a crazy Wednesday for me. But imagine being in the position of being an NFL player, and you are now simply a transaction. That's it. You have no value other than being a draft pick. That, to me, has got to be one of the biggest mind bleeps that you can possibly have as a player, right? Like, you are going through now all of the emotions, all of the regular emotions, all of whatever it is that you've got to do to deal with the fact that you have no value to a team. This has to be the end for Deontay Johnson. Like it just has to be the end. And if the reporting is true that came out of Houston, that he was sulking in the sidelines and he was just being a big old baby because he didn't get targets, you deserve every bit of it that you get. If that's not the case, damn, you talk about a terrible fall from grace. 28 years old and your dream is done. We're going to see you, my friend, in the UFL or the XFL or whatever the hell that spring football league is called, because that's the only place that you will bring any type of value. And that has to be an alarming, eye-opening situation for a person who's made their career earnings by simply playing a game. He will never see the amount of money that he used to get because of his own actions on just being a big old baby on the sidelines. That to me is just so, one, it's sad, but two, it's just like, man, what could have been? How can you look that gift horse in the mouth and not do anything with it? It absolutely blows my mind. More news coming out of the NFL. It turns out that Chargers head coach Jim Harbaugh is going to have a cardiac ablation and a hip replacement as he gets ready to go into the off season here. I was going to play the audio, but I just realized now that I'm more than likely not going to be able to play the audio, so I'm going to have to do something else. We might revisit this on Friday's show. Remember, the Tipping Point with my Tipton. We are now live on Roku with national streaming sports Monday through Friday. It was only Monday through Thursday. They relented. I was begging them. I was down on both knees. I was like, guys, look, please, just allow me one more day. And they're like, I guess, guys, sure, whatever. They gave me their one more day. So now Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Mountain Time, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Hopefully we can get to grow. Hopefully you guys don't get tired of seeing me on there. If you do, I apologize. I sincerely do. But you can also follow me on Instagram at Mr. Tipton33. You can get more of me. If you like me, you can get more of me. They like me. They really like me. I don't remember where I heard somewhere, but I think that was like an actual thing. Like someone was like, oh my God, they like me. I won an award. They like me. They really like me. Like it was a real thing. I thought it was just something they put in movies, but that was a real thing. Jim Harbaugh has to be feeling that way, the way that this year went for the Chargers. I don't think anyone really had them being a playoff team. Granted, they were the playoff team that everyone thought would beat, one of those road teams that would win. They weren't. The only road team that won this past week was the Washington Commanders. Jaden Daniels becoming what some people think is the greatest rookie quarterback of all time. A lot of stuff to kind of say about that, but I'll hold off for now. I'm looking over at ESPN.com one more time, looking at some of the scores that are going on here, and it looks like I can't talk about any of these games because a lot of these games are extremely close and not over yet, and I don't think they'll be over by the time the show's done. But I can talk about the New York Knicks and the Philadelphia 76ers, and I absolutely love seeing this for the city of New York. Basketball is so much more fun whenever the New York Knicks are good. Obviously, there's issues with the ratings, and we can talk about that. We can talk about that till we're blue in the face, that it's going to be three-pointers and blah, 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 blah. As a matter of fact, somebody had asked me a couple of days ago what my thoughts were on with the NBA and why ratings are down and this and that. And my response to that, whenever people get me in the wild, is, well, what are your thoughts? What do you think? What's the reason why you think that the NBA ratings are down? And all they can tell me was, I just don't like the three-pointer. And I had to sit back and think about that and think to myself, why? What is it about the three-pointer that just seems to turn people off? Because to me, it's much more of a skill to be able to shoot from that far out and still have accuracy and make those shots and do all that. And I get it. It sucks whenever you see people missing a whole bunch of times because they're just not good three-point shooters. But if that's the case, why have one shot that a couple of inches makes a difference in their value of it. If it's the more valuable shot, of course you're going to shoot it more. I've always been that type of mindset, right? Like it would drive teachers and all that crazy of, if you don't value something, why should I do it, right? Why should I go into the paint, get beat up on, have my body beat up on, more than likely miss, and have an opportunity to make 1 point whenever I can take less damage to my body, shoot from out here, and possibly get 3 points? A layup, you're in purgatory. Who cares about that? A dunk is nice and pretty, but the value comes from shooting the three-pointer. So if you don't want to have the three-pointer be the shot that people are shooting in the NBA, then you have to devalue it. And that's just not going to happen anymore, right? Like that's just something that will flatly not happen in the NBA. They're not going to come up with a 4-point shot or anything like that to bring the value down from the 3-point shot. But there is an artistry to it. There is something beautiful, magical about watching the three-pointer go up and do what it's got to do and swish through that net, right? That's me as someone that just loves basketball, man. I genuinely just love basketball. And as I sit back and I think about all of the things that could be wrong in the NBA, I honestly just sit here and say to myself, it's more than likely you just don't like the game anymore, right? Like were you ever really a big NBA fan? Because the NBA to me always appealed to me as a younger person. It didn't appeal to me as an old guy, right? Like I wasn't going to be thinking to myself at 50 years old, I'm going to be sitting here watching basketball like the other old guys do, right? Like I was like, I love this game. I still do love the game, but I never thought of myself as watching it as an old guy. I think a lot of people fall out of love with certain sports, like your fan width is only so far. And we've seen an emergence in the popularity of hockey. We've seen an emergence in the popularity of ancillary sports, right? Like soccer and other things that we didn't think would be as popular as they are now. That's a blatant thing. It's something that we get to witness now, right? And what that ultimately does is it hurts the popularity of basketball domestically. Internationally, it's still the second biggest sport in the world. So you can't sit here and tell me just because you don't like one style of the game means that your opinion should matter all that much. I think about that a lot whenever it comes to a bunch of other sports, right? Like we look at things that are going on in the world around us, and you're targeting a population of people that is 1.14% of the population, right? Why? It's such a small amount of the population. What does it matter that they get to do or not do whatever it is that you want them to do or not do? Why care? And whenever you look at that, look at who the bigger stars in the NBA are now, right? Like yes, you have some homegrown stars with LeBron James and with Damian Lillard and, et cetera, et cetera. But the biggest names in the NBA right now are Victor Wembanyama, Luka Doncic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Jokovic, right? Like you've got all these players that are not American players. And I think that that's the thing that's turning a bunch of people off to the NBA. All right, everybody, I want to thank you so much for being a part of today's show. I appreciate you dealing with me as this is a pre-recorded show and I can't get to the comments or any of that stuff, but please follow me on all the various social media sites at Mr. Tipton 33. Of course, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at Roku on National Streaming Sports. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of this. We will see you all next week. I have a 2008 Ford Mustang GT convertible, and nothing makes me happier in that car than when it's nice and clean. And you know who helps me get there? RevAutoCarCare.com. They help me get that pony looking as nice and shiny and ready for any of the car meetups that are all around the great city of El Paso. Spoil your car and go to RevAutoCarCare.com/Tipton and view all the inventory they have and find out what works for you to help make your ride shine. RevAutoCarCare.com/Tipton. Use promo code Tipton33 at checkout to save 15%.